Want help to grow your business? Download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.
Welcome to Family Business Matters, Episode 8. Today we're going to be talking about how to plan for your retirement out of family business. And with me today I have Mr. Daniel Dumble, owner and director of Arete Finance, and Mr. Ben Law, owner and director of Exceed Financial. Welcome guys, thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Yeah, as we've discussed sort of previously, off camera, that amount of wealth that's being transferred just in Australia alone between family businesses or out of family businesses over the next 20 to 25 years, about $6.3 trillion. It's a fairly big figure in anyone's book. But as professionals in this field and specialising in family business, what do you see as some key elements of actually planning for retirement out of a family business, Ben?
Well, I think, Lloyd, the first port of call is that the dreaded R word can be quite an interesting conversation to have with family businesses. And retirement means all different things to all different people. So for some people, retirement might happen to mean, we exit the business, we live on the beach, we go caravanning, we go travelling, etc. For others, it might mean I take a lesser role in the business, and for others it might mean my wife retires and I keep working, or vice versa. So there's all different types of retirement. So I think the first thing is working out what does retirement, or what does it look like for you, or what would you like it to look like for you? And I think that's the first port of call. The second port of call is actually working through what you specifically want. So not only what does retirement look like, but what do you specifically want? Do you want to be still involved in the business? Do you still want to have control? Do you want to completely exit the business? Do you want to be exposed to the business risk? How much money do you need to live off? Where are you going to fund that money from, etc. So I think education and thinking about the process first is the most important thing.
So that would obviously require some in-depth discussions and that sort of stuff across the generations. Would that be a reasonable assumption?
Absolutely, because obviously the retiring generation as such need to work out what they need, but the new generation coming through, the kids as we'll say, they need to actually be on board and understand what mum's retirement's goals are, so that they can actually start to come into the business, understand the expectations, and then help work towards giving mum and dad that opportunity to do that while still having an opportunity themselves to take over. So absolutely, planning is key.
And Dan, from your perspective as a financier, sort of how does that play out in your processes and that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a good point, Lloyd. Ben's exactly right on that side of things. The banks more and more these days are wanting to know what the succession plan is, what the retirement plan is going to look like. They actually can see it as a major risk. For example, siblings coming through to take over the business, are they going to change the strategy of the business? Are they going to be taking on more debt, and that puts the business further at risk? Will there be a requirement to raise debt to actually pay out mum and dad? The earlier you can engage a bank with your succession plan and your retirement plan and get them on board for with that, the better. It's going to be more seamless at the end of the day, and you can achieve what you want to achieve in retirement.
And so you were talking about there, Ben, about sort of, it's that horrible big R word, and
It is.
And so what do people normally think when they go, crikey, is it time for me to move on, and that sort of thing? So is it that they need to hand over something, or they need to let go of something, and sort of how does that play out from a planning point of view, but inside the actual bowels of the business, I suppose, which is probably where the finance might be sitting and that sort of thing. So how do you go about those sorts of things?
Well, I think the first thing is that depending on where they are in the life cycle or their life cycle or the business's life cycle, generally when people start thinking about retirement, the rule of thumb is they should have started 10 to 15 years before then. That's normally the way it happens. And if you ask someone before they're ready to start planning for retirement, what are you going to do for retirement? Normally they say, I either have no idea or I intend to work forever. And that's something I've heard many, many times over the year, is ask the patriarch of the family when they're going to retire, and they say when they carry me off in a box. Invariably, as people get older, that changes as they start to their grandkids come along and those sorts of things, and potentially their other half might decide that no, they want to do some different things in life. So it's managing those expectations early on and getting a plan in place early rather than waiting till it's later. And as Dan said, it puts intense pressure on the business. And by nature, family business owners are fairly entrepreneurial and fairly driven, and they back themselves. But unfortunately, what they do is they tie all their wealth up in the business, and their retirement plan effectively is, when I get ready to retire, I'll just pull my money out of the business, I'll sell the business, and we all know that the business may not be worth what they thought it was, it may not be a good time, all those other sorts of issues.
And so, we talk about succession planning a lot, but would you consider that's more of a transition process than a succession process? But how then do banks and other financiers sort of look at those sorts of things? Because they tend to be stuck in traditional wording and traditional thoughts. Because a family business moves on through the generations, and it's really just transitioning from one generation to the next at this point in time.
Yeah, look, the banks will look at it quite openly at the end of the day.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.